What's exciting is AI is making it available for us to test for our sleep age. So seeing how we're sleeping. So say you're 50 and are you sleeping like a 72-year-old? Or hopefully on the other side of things, you're sleeping like a 40-year-old or something. And part of
Amazing.
the hallmarks of that older sleep is especially clear with fragmented sleep. So that kind of characteristic of waking up a lot throughout the course of the night. And then of course, as you spoke to, that rich kind of sections of that plentiful sleep, so that deep sleep and REM as well, that even if you're shortened on that sleep duration. So certainly speaks to, I think, some of the work that you're doing that we can even improve our sleep age.
All right. Well, it is such a pleasure to have on the show Mollie Eastman, who's been on many times before, and I'm just so excited to have you on again. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited about this. I know before we hit record, we were just chatting up a storm. So I know our main problem will be how to cut it short. So
No, I know. This is going to be shorter than we wanted to, but we'll always do another one because we've already done a couple of
exactly.
episodes, right? We've
And you
done,
never really meet mastery with sleep. It's an ongoing, I often call it like a mountain with no top. There's always things that we can do to continue to improve and support. So we'll keep this going.
exactly. And sometimes we need to repeat things that we already know. And you're like, yeah, 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 we should be getting on it. Kind of like the nap thing, which I heard on your
Yes.
podcast, Sleep is a Skill. And I, I just heard it a few days ago. And then today I was just running on fumes. And I said, you know what? And even though I'm not tired, I'm like, I can just go, go, go. I'm
Yeah.
going to take Molly's advice and I'm going to lay down for a power nap for 15 minutes.
Yes. How did that go, by the way?
I so needed it. It's so weird because you're like, I have no time. I have
I
zero
know.
time to do
I know.
this. But
Yes.
because I had you on my shoulder since I just listened to that episode, I was like, okay, let's try this because your brain will get a boost, it'll get a recharge, and I really needed it. And I was like, God, it was a good thing I did that. And I do my breath work as I'm sort of lying down. Thank God I didn't fall asleep because I was worried if I were to fall asleep, I would have lost the whole day. I had meetings to
Yes.
attend, so I put the little alarm on my Aura ring. I recorded it as well.
Did it even happen if it wasn't recorded? It's like a modern day Cohen.
I was like, maybe my recovery will get a little uptick because
Yes.
that's happened to me before where I was flying. I had a 6 a.m. flight. Of course, I got zero sleep or very little sleep because
Yeah.
you're there. But
I've been there.
interestingly enough, my body even though I'll maybe get only 5 hours of sleep, my
Yeah.
deep sleep is condensed. It's like
It's really good.
somehow gets in there. I don't know how,
Good. Okay.
but
That's a
I
hallmark of great sleep from a perspective of certainly a hallmark of older sleep. I think we might have spoken about this potentially, this whole idea of in the future being able to test for our sleep age. So versus how we can test for chronological versus biological ages nowadays. What's exciting is AI is making it available for us to test for our sleep age. So seeing how we're sleeping. So say you're whatever, 50 and are you sleeping like a 72-year-old? Or hopefully on the other side of things, you're sleeping like a 40-year-old or something. And part of
amazing.
the hallmarks of that older sleep is especially clear with fragmented sleep. So that kind of characteristic of waking up a lot throughout the course of the night. And then of course, as you spoke to, that rich kind of sections of that plentiful sleep, so that deep sleep and REM as well, that even if you're kind of shortened on that sleep duration. So certainly speaks to, I think, some of the work that you're doing that we can even improve our sleep age quite possibly.
Where do we get this tool to
So, okay.
various
So
sleeping?
right now it's still not as something that is like you can get it readily available in the same way that we do with the testing for our chronological versus biological age. But what is postulated is that soon this will be available, especially with the exponential growth of AI and large language models right now, and then applying this to sleep because they've really been already able to do this by looking at what we might see for people in sleep labs. And so, how our sleep is performing, and then kind of pairing that with AI and kind of giving you a sense of how you're scoring. So, it feels like a stay tuned. It's coming soon to a hopefully wearable near you.
Yeah. Great. Well, I think you'll probably announce it in your newsletter, which, by the way, has been running for years and years. And I usually delete all my newsletters eventually, but yours is still going strong. Whenever it comes in, I'm like, what has Molly found
Okay,
today?
Zora, that brings me so much joy because it's interesting you say that. I turned 40 recently, so it's been giving me like pause for some of the next chapter of my life and how I'm evolving like my business and things are important to me and values. And one of the things I really love doing is the newsletter. And so I want to see if there's more that I can build on that, take more time with that, because it's really just something where how I think of it is it's a time in my week where I'm allowed to just like unabashedly go down the rabbit hole, kind of Alice in Wonderland of the latest that's happening in the world of sleep. And it's just so fascinating. It allows me that time to not feel guilty, like, oh, I shouldn't be reading this right now, or I shouldn't be doing this. No, no, this is the intention. Go to town. And so I really love that. So I'm happy to hear that. And for anyone
Yes.
listening, please join in. I love to hear feedback and do respond currently to every single email, although it might take me some time. I will get back to every single email that people send on the newsletter too. So I'd love to have people.
Oh, you're amazing. I'll have a link to the newsletter in the show notes too. But I wanted
Yay.
to check in with you because I didn't know that this actually could happen. But when I was getting the 5 hours of sleep because I was catching a 6 a.m. plane,
Yeah.
I I had, of course, a poor recovery score in the 70s or something. And then we had a blackout in Spain. There was
Yes.
no electricity and no internet the day I landed.
Yes.
I got in, thank God, early because it was an early flight. And then, of course, I'm thinking, well, I can't do my work. I can't connect with people. And I decided, well, I'll take a nap. And I took a nap for probably an hour, hour and a half. And that recovery score bumped up to the
Right.
80s. I didn't know it could do that. I didn't realize I could actually improve my scores even past in the morning. I thought it was just kind of your sleep thing. I thought it was set in stone, but you're probably seeing this in your community.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. I love that you got to experience that. And I'm wondering the podcast that you would listen to about the naps, was that with Sarah Mednick? Do you know
Yes.
for the power of the
Yes.
downside? Okay, great. So for anyone listening and curious about naps, because there's a whole world of naps, she actually wrote an entire book about naps. And so one, yes, they can be such a great kind of add-on, especially if we did have that inefficient or ineffective sleep or just a short duration, all of those, for many reasons, we can bring about naps. Now, I will call out there's one group that we might have you stave off for a period of time, and that's if you're dealing with ongoing insomnia. And so, insomnia, I feel like it's just such a charged word. I'd really like to get rid of it, honestly. But it's simply the denotion of right now, are you dealing with ongoing struggles in falling asleep or staying asleep? And I would also add on, especially if now you're starting to see that and it's been layered in with sleep anxiety. So now you're starting to fixate on your sleep. And now it's like this self-fulfilling prophecy, vicious cycle, which I certainly have found myself in. Don't worry, you can break that cycle if you are in it. But if you are dealing with any of that, which we do see different periods of life where people might be in that kind of conversation, then that might be a time to stave off from naps because that's something that does dump out some of that adenosine. So you're building up that adenosine throughout the course of the day. And so when you get to lay your head on your pillow at night, the goal is that you've had such a overflowing amount of adenosine so that you're nice and sleepy by the time you get to that pillow. But there are some things that will drop out some of that adenosine, and one is naps. The other one that can confuse, these are just common things that can confuse how much adenosine the brain is registering, is caffeine. So while it doesn't actually dump out the adenosine, it makes your brain feel like it's not there. It's kind of like ghost adenosine. So it's like you don't realize that it's there.
Doesn't
I
it?
just
It
made that
did.
up right now. I might need to work on that analogy,
But I
but
think it was the caffeine that occupies the adenosine receptors. Is that
yeah,
right? So you're
right. It's not affecting at all the amount of adenosine that's actually there. It's almost just like it's like
hijacking it.
circus mirrors. Like you don't
Yeah.
see it that it's
Yeah.
there.
Mm.
So you're still oh, I've got all the energy until then it wears off and it crashes and then all that adenosine is present again, or you see it, right? If that makes sense. So those are ways that are common ways that people are affecting their adenosine. And so when we're dealing with sleep anxiety or difficulties falling asleep or staying asleep, we want to use sleep pressure to our advantage. And so really setting up the stage to be nice and tired out by the same way we would with the kids, like, oh, get them running around, get them so wiped by the time they get to bed. I don't have kids, but I feel like people do this. So by the time you get to bed that they're out, we want to do the same thing to a certain extent for ourselves. Now, If that's not you, if you're not dealing with any of that, naps can be a wonderful, really productivity hack, kind of second wind to your day, ability to really get some of that rich sleep. And for many people, able to kind of go into some deep sleep in a quick period of time and then come right back out and feel refreshed and move on with the rest of your day. And so hopefully you were able to experience some of that, but it's certainly just that shifting of our brain state that we're in from often that beta brain, just the busyness, something's wrong, stress, I got so much to do, to lowering that to some of those calmer states that just acts as such a nice refresh. And also for so many of my people that want to improve things like their nervous system metrics or closest approximation to nervous system metrics, like HRV, heart rate, respiratory rate, body temperature over time, things like that to help train our body that, oh, I actually do have a say in this kind of stress state that I'm in. I don't have to stay on that hamster wheel all the time. I can kind of press reset the same way we would with like our phone or computer if it's acting funky. Just at that reset then allows us to train for that shifting of those gears more routinely into a parasympathetic response.
If I remember correctly, too, I mean, we've had this conversations many times, but in that episode, you also mentioned that generally you don't want to be taking naps too close to bedtime, which I think is an important
Yes.
thing. And that's
Exactly. Yes, because same rules apply with that adenosine conversation. So I have to use the analogy of like when you wake up in the morning, you have an empty hourglass. And then just by process of going about your day, just by existing, you're going to have sands of adenosine filling up, filling up, filling up. And so midday can kind of be this great period of time where you still got plenty of time to continue to build up more of that adenosine. You're still kind of in alignment with the circadian rhythm piece of things. We often see that kind of mid-afternoon slump that many people will experience, although sometimes that's like blood sugar and other reasons. But still, there does tend to be a little bit of that lull. All of those things can be nicely aligned. But the problem, and I see this also with things like meditation and the best of intentions, and sadly, these things can backfire sometimes when people are struggling with their sleep and they say, okay, well, then I got to have this perfect sleep routine. I'm going to do breath work. I'm going to do meditation. I'm going to do stretching. I'm going to take nice calming music. And they do all the things. And kudos, because it's clear that they're prioritizing their sleep. But sometimes it backfires because then they fall asleep early and now they're awoken. And now they got that second wind that we were talking about is really beneficial in the day for your productivity, but not so much before bed.
yeah, absolutely. I know a few people like that who've mentioned it. So it's
Yes.
true. I would love to cover some new things because
Yeah.
in general, if anybody is listening now who wants to go back, I'll have links in the show notes because we've covered sleep disturbances and menopause and whole menopause sleep, why we're waking up at the 2 a.m. and how to fix that. We talked about how to prep your room and get a good night's sleep and all those cool hacks and sleep hygiene and sleep apnea you covered pretty
Mm.
well in lean women, and
Yeah.
it was super interesting. So I'd like to have that. But you go to many conferences and you're always all over the world and doing all these sleep events, and
Yeah.
I'm wondering, I do remember, I'll never forget, you said at every sleep conference what's repeated all the time without a doubt is that it's crucial to have the same week wake and sleep times. Like you wake up always at
Yeah.
more or less at the same time and you fall asleep at the
Totally.
same time. So that was a cool bit of information. I'm wondering if there's anything new in the world that you would love to share with us that we haven't covered yet.
Yes. I would. So I love that and well said. So one, I would say what you pointed to is almost often, I think sometimes a bad news insight. I feel when people hear this, they're like, oh, wait a minute. So the best thing I could do is consistency, going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time. And especially I want to underscore too, out of what you just shared, if there's one to choose over the other, prioritize the wake up time. And I'm not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater as far as bedtime, but I'm saying of the two, we absolutely want to maintain the anchoring of the wake up time. And so say it's 7 a.m., making that plus or minus around 30 minutes. You can swing that accordingly. Say if you have a little rough night, maybe you move it out a little bit. but you're still anchored at around the same time. And then, of course, for the bedtime, you're still doing your wind down. And hopefully, you're not having to do as much as I was sharing before when people are getting stressed. Like, we don't want you to have to do a 27-step routine for bed. If we do all these things starting in the beginning of your day, it should kind of all just work. Now, there's things that we can do, though, to support it. And so, getting our environment nice, kind of calming ourselves. That same episode that you pointed to with Sarah Mednick is a great one to listen to about this. She talks about the power of the down state, and it's one of the few books that brings in HRV and sleep really beautifully. And so I don't see those two discussed as commonly as some of the work that she does, but she has an entire book in addition to the nap book around how to train yourself to downshift more frequently. And I can tell you, as someone who's like recovering type A or has definitely very strong type A tendencies, this is something that I am ongoingly working on for myself and with my husband. We kind of like police each other because we're both like that, just overthinkers and whatever. But you can train this the same way that sleep is a skill. You can train for this ability to downshift. But I say all that for the bedtime, that just setting your, so not having that pressure. So in case you're like, oh no, it's 10 o'clock. I'm supposed to be asleep. And now I'm not. And now it's 10:20. And now I'm not. Oh, just knowing that there's a little bit more flexibility with the bedtime. But if you anchor the wake up time, then over the course of weeks and stretches, if you keep that going, then the bedtime often figures itself out. So just kind of hold on to that. But things that are new and happening. So one thing I thought was really interesting was I went to Sleep 2024 last year, and there are conferences all on sleep in case people are like, oh, geez, snooze fest. But really, puns for days, you know? But I was speaking to some of the greatest minds, like one sleep coach for the Olympics. We've had him on twice on the podcast, and he was speaking to some new research that was actually starting to question, could meal timing potentially be even, dare I say, more important than light dark timing for jet lag? Now, that's absolutely needs more research and what have you, but it certainly at least puts it on the rung as very important in the same ways that we think about light dark being important for managing jet lag. But meal timing, because they used to kind of poo-poo this, and this was kind of a point of frustration for me with some of the apps that are out there for kind of bringing about dealing with jet lag or managing jet lag. Many of them don't mention meal timing, and it really frustrates me because it's such a huge aspect of helping to train the body and telling the body what time it is and what to be doing when. So that was new research, so you could kind of self-dose that for yourself if you are traveling. But this doesn't just apply to travel, though, would be kind of what you could extrapolate, because then this could be for the rest of your life, using understanding just how crucial that meal timing piece is as a zeitgeber or time giver. And I think we probably spoken about this on the last podcast. So if people want to learn more, they should absolutely listen to that episode. And one of our most listened to episodes was with Dr. Sachin Panda out of the Salk Institute. He wrote the Circadian Code and decades of research about meal timing and its effect on sleep and circadian health. So that's a whole cool area of study. So I think people might underestimate just how much of a role that is playing in their sleep, and those pesky 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m. wake ups that we also spent some time on, because in a latest sleep survey out of U.S. News and World Report found that, at least in America, around 89% of Americans were speaking to waking up frequently throughout the course of the night. So a huge portion, bare minimum, are dealing with this. So I think understanding that meal timing piece can be one. But other like new and exciting things, I would say, since Dr. Matthew Walker is like really helping to bring so much attention to this area and kind of conversation around sleep, one thing that he's doing is aiming to kind of create a new category. So instead of sleep optimization, he's pointing to what he's calling this category sleep enhancement. So the idea is that if we are optimizing, this would be something that would be innate and what's available just within ourselves. And now we're just optimizing what is there. Whereas sleep enhancement would be like the process of bringing something else that is going to actually bring about better results than we could ever achieve with our own resources. And so he is on the board, and I have no affiliation with this company, but I think it speaks to likely more of what will be coming in this category, which is the Somni. So this is using transcranial electric stimulation. And so it's Matthew Walker's on the board of that. So it's kind of lending some potential credibility for this. But of course, need more research. We need more to understand. But I have seen a number of clients really start to love the process of, so it's you wear this thing and you
Your
wear it
head,
before bed.
on your
Yep,
head.
for about 15 minutes. So it's like a headband type thing, but you don't have to wear it when you sleep, which I'm happy about because some of the
Mhm.
ones that you've had to wear with sleep, I just don't see the compliance rate kind of lasting there. So this, and then I also find that this kind of forces people to have a bit more of that nice kind of calming routine, but you don't have to also make it so arduous. Like, so you can be technically, can be reading a book or whatever, and you've got this on and it's helping to calm your brain in a particular way, but it's using AI to read. So if you are, say you just got back from being out with friends or something and something happened, you're all amped up, you're replaying the conversations or something, there's lots of brain activity and it's taking from what it's normally learning about you, and then kind of helping to apply. So, say if you're more activated, it's going to shift the type of enhancement that is administered. So, it's kind of learning is the idea. So, I think things like that are of interest. I think also,
I ask you something? Can I just interrupt
yeah,
you?
of
Because it
course.
sounds like a really cool technology. I haven't heard of this one yet, the
Oh, good.
Somni. And
Yep. So, yep. Somni, SOMNEE, I think, if I'm saying
oh,
it right. Yep.
okay.
Let me
Well,
get
it
that.
sounds very much like the
Yes, like that.
Soul Tech system, which I think
I was thinking, yes, as I was sharing that, and I was thinking of you because I saw that you are also someone that's using Soul Tech.
yeah, and
Yes,
so with Soul Tech is different. It tracks the sleep, but it also while you're asleep, it's actually doing something, right? It's entraining the brain, and it takes weeks, months, if not, I don't know how long to really get the brain into a different state. And I think it was originally created for PTSD
yes,
people and it's really sounds like a cool technology. I love it. And everybody I know who's got one is absolutely loving it because it's not just tracking your sleep and then making you nervous when you wake up going, oh my God, it was horrible or it was good. But it's actually doing something while you're asleep. And that's what sounds cool about the Somni, even though you don't wear it while you're asleep, but you wear it for 15 minutes and it's supposed to be doing something while you're wearing that, right?
exactly. Yes. So this would be going in that sleep enhancement category for sure, is the thinking anyway. And same with the Soul Tech too. So it's just kind of all happening passively, and it's something that you can just apply, go about the rest of your life, and that you're getting some of these benefits. And naturally, these are all kind of things that I think just about every person is interested in having for sleep. So that could bring about some real excitement, I think, for people. Now, we do still need more research, and I don't want people to hear this and think, oh, it's like an Ambien or something, because certainly it's not going to be like some sort of sleep knockout or something. But the thinking is that it does seem to get better over time. And so I think we're going to see more and more things like this. I think other things that we're seeing too are integrations with like PMF mats, bringing that in. Now, of course, that's not new tech, but I think people are starting to have so much more data because now they have these wearables and they're starting to see the benefits that those things can bring about together. And then, of course, the cooling options. So, all the cooling mattress toppers. I mean, those are just some of the fastest ways that I see people like overnight improve some of their sleep results. But then one thing I can share that was really interesting that just came about, and it's like I'm still mulling over it, and I need to learn more. But I just had this researcher on the podcast that you might maybe be interested in hearing more about this. I was like fascinated. So it's a researcher out of University of Tampa. They just received I got to double check. It was either 28 million or 38 million, a lot of millions to research hyperbarics. So hyperbaric but the research is such a character, so great, such great energy. And he did this kind of stunt where he went underwater for over 100 days. And during the 100-day period of time to, because certainly when we're going under that pressure, akin to what would be happening in hyperbarics. And what he found is fascinating. Just again, this is one person, this is anecdotal, but he was using Oura Ring for many years. He was averaging in the low 30s, which is already pretty impressive for things like deep sleep and REM with the Oura Ring. And then by bringing that underwater overnight, like it just kept happening for that throughout the span of that 100 days. They found it jumping from his deep sleep to around 50 to 60% just by virtue of living in that hyperoxygenated state. And also his metabolism seemed to really, really jump up as well. So he was losing weight even by eating the exact same amount. He had tons of people that were monitoring his progress and doctors, and they actually said, like, okay, we've got to do something here because there's going to be like nothing left of you by the end of this 100 days. So they had to boost what he was eating. But I share all this because we do see that certainly metabolic health is really important for our sleep results and health in general, but also that sleep quality piece. And so this new research and all the funding that they're getting, they're going to be doing a big portion around sleep. So that's exciting. And I think hyperbaric is something that seems to have utility with some of the modern issues that we've been seeing with sleep. So COVID, long COVID, some of the issues that for post-viral load and sometimes sticking around for people, that this could be something that they could utilize. And hopefully, at least in the United States, everything's so cost prohibitive, hopefully have some of these covered by insurance, the more data we get around this. And they're already apparently covered by workers' comp in some states, at least this was spoken to on the podcast. So I think we're starting to get more momentum there. So these may be areas that we might have originally thought were for health enhancement could also be used for sleep enhancement.
It's amazing, actually. We did a great podcast on hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which I think when you say hyperbaric, that's what you
Yes,
mean, right? You go
that's
into a
exactly what I
chamber.
mean. Yes.
So you
Yes.
go into this chamber in case anybody's not really sure what that is. It's
Yes.
or looks like a submarine or something. There's big ones and multiple people go in, or you just have the one person in there. But it is you don't feel really anything. I mean, some people actually do feel the pressure, but in general, it's one of these quite a simple thing. You spend I don't know, 20 minutes, half an hour, they're different, I
Yeah.
guess, programs.
Sure.
But it was interesting because I think I'm really fascinated by hyperbaric. It's not always accessible and can be very expensive. So, but
Yeah.
insurance can cover it for certain things.
Yeah.
But in that episode, it was after I turned off the camera, the recording. We
Oh,
were
I hate when that
talking
happens.
we were talking about BPC 157. It's a peptide. And I was injecting it because of my recovery with the hip surgery. And she said, yeah, that's hyperbaric in a bottle. Like saying it does some amazing things that
Yes.
is much cheaper and maybe not everything that a hyperbaric chamber can do, but again, it was like that was fascinating. I had
Isn't
to,
that
I had to share that in the introduction because it was just too juicy. But
That's
I
too juicy. Yeah, and especially when you start hearing, I mean, it can land. And this was at Health Optimization Summit. We were chatting about that. Just it was happened here in Austin about 2 weeks ago. They had the Hyperbaric International Association, I believe is the group, and they had tons of pamphlets. And it literally was landing as almost some sort of panacea. Remember when CBD first came out and it was like, it cures this and that and this and that. It felt like that with the hyperbaric because it was like PTSD, neuroinflammation, inflammation, female hormones, male hormones, everyone's hormone. It was just going into every single thing that it could help. And yet, I will tell you, I am a little bit on the bandwagon now after certainly that podcast. Just I was already interested, and it's been something that I want to learn more about. And you can expect, stay tuned for future newsletters that I'm going to be deep diving on this because I definitely want to learn more. But yeah, so I'd say hyperbaric is certainly an area. I would also say that the area of AI and from the mindset perspective, I think is really exciting and maybe could use some kind of boundaries or ways of utilizing it for max value. But what I mean by this is now Oura Ring, Whoop are starting to have AI kind of coaching like within them, right? And so this can be, if used well, and if you bring about, say, like ChatGPT and other options, I've found for so many people that are dealing with major stressors and kind of navigating major life issues that people are now using these as kind of therapy, or now, of course, we have to disclaimer, making sure that you understand, but we always want to get proper support by a professional, et cetera, et cetera. But to have some support there and to really set it up for success. So one of the big barriers that we see with insomnia in particular, and so many people at some point in your life are likely to deal with some period where you're just struggling to fall asleep, you're struggling to stay asleep. Like you're probably going to have some period of that in your life for most people. Maybe unless you have a sleep disorder and you are sleep deprived and you might not even realize. But so you're going through that period of time. And one of the things that we're dealing with is people don't have access to practitioners that are trained in A, CBTI, cognitive behavioral therapy for insomnia, or B, ACT or ACTI, acceptance commitment therapy for insomnia. And we know that these are kind of old stats, but in the United States, the thinking was that somewhere in the ballpark of around 7,000 sleep professionals were kind of listed and registered for millions of people. And so many people, and everyone sleeps. So there's this missing of the numbers of how to support people. And so one, I think it's a great area if people are looking to niche or get specific. If you have any interest in sleep, like we need more people to support sleep. And so Zora, thank you for sharing this kind of platform to help, because it's just so important. But AI is kind of bridging the gap on some of this. And we see different tech where people are really established groups are coming out with CBT bots and apps and different things so that now you have like your own coach, because a lot of it is that behavioral, it's helping to spot some of these thought patterns. So I think these are some of the ways to work from that angle. And then lastly, this is not the last, there's so many things, but using peptides for weight loss for sleep apnea is a big advancement. Now that's controversial. So I don't know what everyone thinks about that, but that is something that's new for sure. And then I would also say tracking or being able to spot sleep disorders with more ease. So now, the Apple Watch is being able to red flag if it looks like people have sleep apnea signs. And so this is a big deal. Now, it won't be diagnostic because it's consumer grade, but it does raise that red flag to go get tested. But I think soon we're going to have a real Venn diagram where we'll be able to, even with these consumer grade pieces of tech, start to get more FDA clearance and actually be able to tell, oh yeah, you do have some sort of signs for sleep disorders. And then we'll just have a surge of people understanding what they're dealing with and hopefully then getting treated.
Wow, chock a block of information here. In case people are not sure what Aura is and Whoop and
Yeah.
yeah, but these are trackers, these are devices that track your sleep and gives you some data. But I noticed that with the Aura ring in the app that there's this AI, like I guess sort of consultant or somebody who's there,
Yes.
right? She says, "Hey, how are you doing? Are you feeling okay?" And I find it fascinating. So I haven't used it a whole lot. I mentioned a couple of things and thought, oh, okay, it came up with some interesting, I guess, not information, but just advice, I guess, what you
Sure.
can do.
Yep.
But I don't know if I should be training it to understand who I am, because I love the idea that the Aura Ring AI,
Yeah.
whoever this
Yes.
is,
Yeah. Whatever
like
it is. Yeah.
knows me, gets to know all my biometrics and
Yes.
understands. And if we used to use the tags, right? Where I've had surgery or I'm traveling or I'm sleeping alone or with an animal or whatever.
Yes.
And you can give this information, but you have to like put in all these tags. But now I'm thinking, should we be using this little program now? And then I'm sure other devices are probably getting on board with this to train that AI what you like, what you don't like, and it's just sort of enhancing the information that it already has. And is that
Yeah.
safe because people probably like, oh, it's yeah, my personal data, and they're worried about
Yes.
uploading these things.
Yeah, and for good reason too. I get it. You can start to get really comfortable with these things and then realize, oh, geez, I've shared such intimate details. So I absolutely hear that. I think where they're at right now, still a little rudimentary in the crossover between the current wearables and that AI. But I think it has goals of getting to exactly what you're saying. Like you would be able to share the same way you would with a sleep coach or something that you might be working with. Oh, the reason for last night was because blah, blah, blah. And hopefully have that all populate. I'm not quite there yet, but I think in the future that could be available. I would say as of right now, ChatGPT seems to be the reigning champion in the as far as large language models that will remember and retain all these things so that you can have kind of an ongoing thread with sleep coaching available and you can train it of what type of sleep coaching you want. So you could say, I want that CBTI approach, or no, actually, I want ACT, which is a little bit more kind of a gentle approach. Or you could say, I want to bring in some of Zora's techniques for sleep or whatever. You can have the different kind of ethos, and then that's what you're training under. And then it will remember you, like what's working, what's not working for you, and kind of give you adequate coaching along the way. And it can be used in conjunction with a real live practitioner as well.
But the Chat GPT doesn't have your biometrics like the or the device or whatever app that you're using.
Yes. Now, what some people are doing now is starting to see about the marriage of all this, and I think this will absolutely be in the health concierge side of things. But for right now, you can upload, say, all of your lab reports. You can upload, so if you're dealing with mold, microtoxins, your GI map, your oats, your all of the things, you can put all of those into your thread and have ChatGPT understand what's going on from you from a health perspective. You can upload some of your latest with your sleep data too, to then get a sense of where you're at. And so, okay, we're going to do a 30-day game or a 90-day game or whatever to help improve your sleep results. Like, what are we going to do? XYZ. It's wild, some of the ways that this could be customized and utilized. So I think there's a lot of potential coming there as well. And then just another random one, just because it happens to be top of mind. You know Sean Wells, right?
Hmm.
Yeah, I have no affiliation. It looks like a product placement or something, but I happen to have this, which is pyrazanthine. So I'm just thinking of new things. He works in the world of different ingredients and so discovered this ingredient or helped extract this ingredient, pyrazanthine. And one of the reasons this pertains to sleep is that some just more common and basic hits to sleep that we see just every day. Alcohol being like a top one. I mean, my goodness. And alcohol, THC, even though people get mad at me about that one, is if used over time. Now, I don't, that one has much more gray area and it can absolutely have periods of time where this is going to be a preferable choice as compared to pain medications or something, because there might be certain real reasons that you might want to go that way. But then the other one is caffeine and just as common things that can hit at sleep, whereas pyrazanthine doesn't seem to hit at adenosine in the same way. And I know we mentioned some of the ins and outs of adenosine. So it seems to be a kind of cleaner, if you will, or more sleep friendly approach to having kind of that upregulation option without the same hits on your ability to downshift and into the evening. So things like that are certainly of interest.
Does it
But I
taste
also
like alcohol? I mean, that's like an alcohol type drink or
this one's a caffeine replacement. So you would
okay.
be having this instead of your like, morning coffee or whatever. And that you could have that even a bit later into the day is the thinking than you might normally be able to get away with caffeine. So still kind of have that enhancement aspect of things.
What
Now
does it
for
taste
alcohol,
like? What does it taste like? I'm
so you
seriously
can actually
curious.
get it in capsules that taste like
Oh,
nothing. So if you wanted to go that capsule route, you could. They've put it into Update is one popular drink. They've put it another company outside of Sean's company is called Rare Bird, and they put it into a coffee. So you still have that coffee ritual, but you have the pyrazanthine effect.
okay. Never heard of
Yeah,
that.
so that's a really interesting one. And then for the alcohol alternatives, I probably spoke about hard ketones,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
Yeah.
okay. Hard ketones being so far one of the best options I've found as an alternative. Kava and then more controversially kratom. So that one has a little bit of controversy with it. And so some people put those two together, so kava and kratom. And so you can have those to have that real kind of state change, but not really hit your sleep in the same way. And then I would just say in the United States, what's been bigger news is that you're able to now get CGMs without a prescription, but they're a particular type of CGM. So it's both Dexcom and Libre now made their own versions.
That's a
Um,
continuous glucose monitor that you wear on your arm to measure the blood sugar levels, just in
yeah,
case.
Thank you.
You and I
Thank
throw
you.
out these words we know,
I
but it's
know. What
funny.
are these? What are these abbreviations? What's happening? Thank you, Zora. I appreciate that. Yes. So having that on your arm in the past was kind of pricey and meant that you had to get a prescription in the United States. So now it's about $50 US dollars, and you can get it without any prescriptions. So these are just more ways because we find so commonly people are shocked. They think, I don't have a problem with that. I'm not diabetic. I'm not this. But then they put that on and they are up and down all around, and it impacts that kind of anxiety, the way that they're managing their days and their autonomic nervous system, and then certainly some of those wake ups throughout the course of the night. So I think all of these are some exciting ways that we can start to, from different angles, help to support our sleep.
I have like 50 billion more questions. I think that I still need one on my list. I'm gonna have you
No,
come
but now we'll
back.
just have to have part two, three, four. We'll have to
It's
get you on over to Austin. We'll do it live.
Yes, it's so interesting, everything that you know. And I appreciate it. I know we're just running out of time. And again, I have questions that are not on my list that I want to ask you, but I'm going to have to wait for that. And I know you have to go. But before I let you go, tell us what's going on in your world in terms of programs, or if you've got some book coming out or something that's happening.
Yes. Yes. Oh, thanks. Sorry. Yeah. So, well, first and foremost, for anyone struggling, if you're like right now listening to this and like, help, I'm struggling with my sleep, we have lots of different things at various kind of levels of commitment or price point or what have you, and lots of free stuff. So at sleepisaskill.com, you can take a sleep assessment, get your information right away sent back to you to help you support getting in action now. And then we have that newsletter that you mentioned, which I'm so happy that you're reading that. Yay. So if anyone is listening, I would love to have Alia on signed up for that. And then we were doing cohorts and now we're moving this to a new model. So stay tuned. We're going to see how this works. We're kind of piloting a new approach. So all the material is getting updated, and so we'll be at a lower price point because we really want to be able to get this for more out to more people. I grew up with no money in a trailer with not a lot of resources, so I want to help support people that need it to be able to get access to these conversations. So we're going to have a lower price point, but then we're floating maybe about like one kind of Q&A live call a month and see how that works, so then people can still come in for that ongoingly. And then if you're really struggling, you want either one-on-ones or just kind of a one-off, we have Oura Ring audits, Whoop audits, and so we can kind of go over your data, help support you there. But then if you want even additional things, so we get you sleep tests, lab work done, all kinds of things to go deep into this topic of your sleep, then we can help support you with that too in longer programs, usually 3 months, 6 months, et cetera.
Oh, wow. Okay. You got it all. You've been in this world for a very long time now. And I'm going to have links to all of this in the show notes.
Yes.
I do remember you had a fabulous PDF with how to get your room set up for that. And is that
Yes.
you still have that?
Yes, I do
Love it.
actually. Yes, I'll have to get that on over. I know I haven't been sharing about that as much, but I should bring that back. You're right. That is the optimized bedroom. So different ways to improve your sleep environment from both low tech and high tech ways.
Awesome. So I will have links in the show notes to all your social media.
Perfect.
You can't remember anything. It's Sleep is a Skill, Mollie Eastman. And I'm so appreciate you. Whenever I have sleep questions, I always run to you first. And
Oh,
and you're my
thank you.
sleep bestie. And
Oh,
I
right back at
I
you.
appreciate everything you do. I appreciate everyone who's made it to the end of this episode. And if you have any questions, obviously reach out to Mollie or me, and we will help you with your sleep. Don't worry about that. So thank you,
Amazing.
Mollie. Have a wonderful day. And everyone else, have a good day, good night, good morning, wherever you're at. See you next
Thank you,
time.
Zora. Appreciate it.